back, perfect peeps, to Code with Coding Cat. I keep getting my other podcast mixed into my brain today, apparently. Special guest with us. How's it going, Colby?
It's going well, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing great. You want to give people, a 2-minute on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Colby Fayok. I'm the Director of Developer Experience Engineering at Cloudinary. I also do a lot of content creation, so you can find me at spacejelly.dev. I also have a cute little mascot as well, but also I have a YouTube channel that I put a lot of content at youtube.com/Colby Fayok. So you can find me pretty much around trying to help people learn how to code and build awesome stuff.
Yeah, sweet little Cosmo behind you, don't you?
Oh
Is
yeah,
it
yeah.
floating over your shoulder there?
Yeah, my wife got that for me for my birthday at one point. It's
That's
really
pretty
cool.
awesome. I need my wife to get on board with buying me cat stuffings or what are they called. That's great. So as always, Alex Patterson. We're going to dive into Cloudinary today, but more specifically, we're going to do something that Cloudinary has for components for like Next.js and kind of some other frameworks as well. But we'll probably spend most of the time on Next today and just kind of walk through like going from zero to an application and how to use those components and kind of what they do. And if we have time, which I really hope, we're going to dive into the performance side of images too. So,
Let's do it.
Colby, I'm going to share my screen and get rolling quick on this one because I think we got some stuff ahead of us. Can
Sure
you
do.
just break down a little bit like why Next Cloudinary was created and kind of where people use it?
Yeah, sure. So there's a bunch of different parts of Cloudinary. There's the DAM aspect, which is basically just a media library, your kind of like storage and everything and organization. But then there's the programmable media side, which is really about the delivery. And on top of the delivery, once you're delivering from our CDN, you gain access to something called transformations, which is being able to do things like dynamic cropping and resizing. We have a ton of new AI features like generative fill and really just things that basically is kind of like a Photoshop API, but it's you can use code through that delivery URL. But we didn't have any kind of integration with Next.js, and I've been a big fan of Next.js for a while, and it's something I really wanted to see. So I started playing around with something, and it kind of started to pick up. People seemed to enjoy the DX that I put together, so I just kept building and building on it, and here we are right now. And um, I think it's a really great way to kind of get what you would expect out of a Next.js app while being able to use Cloudinary.
Nice, love it. So for us today, we're gonna, like I said, get started with Next.js. We always like to deliver a GitHub repo kind of coming out of Code with Coding Cat. So what I'm gonna do today is actually go over to ShadCN UI, and we'll get started from here. I think they have a install next. Cool. So here is the create next app. I'm going to use PnP because I don't want to spend an hour installing npm, and we'll just go from here. So I'm going to cd into my standard web coder cat. There we go. And then I'll run this and actually switch this out for a name that's somewhat more usable. Next Cloudinary hopefully is not taken yet.
As long as you haven't contributed.
Oops, probably is. Yep.
Oh, yep.
I probably have. All right, we'll do next Cloudinary something. How about code with Coding Cat? There we go.
I thought you were going to actually go with something.
I should have. That would have made more sense. So let me bring that up a little bit. Probably need a smidge bigger for folks. I'll probably bounce them back and forth a little bit here. So we're not using source directory. We are using app router. So it's standard. Good there. And I'll show you in a minute why we're using ShadCN as well. So we'll throw this in. So that basically gives us all, let's actually go into our project. All right, and then we'll throw ShadCN in. It'll init. And I always have to look this up. I don't know why, but so not to waste time, I like to throw all the components in, and we'll have to
Oh,
look that up real quick.
I didn't know you could do that.
There's like a little command. I think it's this one. Where is it? It's like yo latest add. I think it's this.
Interesting.
something along these lines. So let's see what that does. That's not it. There's like a shorter one where I don't have to answer anything. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I'm missing a like dash anything else.
Oh, there we go.
Maybe that's it.
That's interesting.
There we go. Okay, so as that kind of churns through, what that's doing at this point, if I were in the right folder, let's do code. So what that's actually doing is dropping all of the components into components/UI, and now you can kind of see them dropping in here. So this is not unlike any other framework, UI framework, but like it's very unique in the fact you can pick and choose and update all of these as you want. It's based on Radix, so that's really cool. But
Yeah.
the reason we're going to use it today is so we can automate some cool things. So I don't know if you've used this yet. You probably have because you use
A
everything.
little bit.
So we're gonna go into V0 Dev. They changed it up recently, like not that long ago, and it's switched around a little bit, and
It's
I
been
was
a
pretty
minute since I
surprised.
played around with it.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is just type in like how about a blog listing page with card images? Anything else? What do you think? Like or maybe I should do like a photo gallery. I don't know.
Yeah, photo gallery would be nice.
Let's see what it spits out for a photo gallery. I'm gonna just check this other command. All right, cool. That finished. So now we're in the right
This
spot.
is definitely different than I remember last time.
Yeah, it changed not even that long ago. I was like blown away. I was like, oh, okay.
It's full on chat now rather than just the generative, huh?
Exactly. And the thing that they took away, which I hope they add back quickly, is the code is only delivered in TSX unless I'm completely missing a button here somewhere. So it's gotten very Next specific. They keep claiming like they're going to add Svelte and like web components and stuff like that. So I hope they get there soon enough.
Yeah.
All right, so if I make this bigger, because we're pretty tight, let's see. So this is our photo gallery. It's just some like shaded cards type of looking thing. But what we're going to do is take a look at this and see what they're using. So they have the image component coming from Next right here. And this is where things kind of get interesting, Kobe. I'll open back up the Next Cloudinary docs, and maybe you can talk a little bit about like what the difference is between the difference between kind of Next image and like the wrapped version with Cloudinary.
Yeah, so starting there, the CLD image component does wrap the Next.js image component. So by default, it's basically a drop-in replacement. The only difference is you're going to be targeting Cloudinary URLs. Now, under the hood, why this is important is because if you're not using something like a custom loader, which is what we do under the hood, it's going to run through the Next.js/Vercels optimization pipeline. So while that's great if you don't have another kind of like optimization tool, but because you're already using Cloudinary, it probably makes more sense to use the Cloudinary tech. And plus, if you put that in front of Cloudinary URLs, you eliminate some of the CDN magic that we can do, such as detecting what browser and device you're on so that we can deliver the most efficient format based off of that browser device. So that's not going to work if you're running it through the Next.js image optimization, for instance.
And that's like it spits out WebP automatically, AVI, stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And JPEG XL as that comes around, that's like whatever the modern formats are going to be, and the browser support, like we're constantly updating that to make sure that we're able to deliver the most efficient where possible.
Cool.
But if it's going through that pipeline, you're essentially cutting off that CDN capability because that's just being downloaded on the server and then delivered through their infrastructure, which again is great. But if you're using Cloudinary, it probably makes more sense to do it there. Plus, then you won't double pay for that.
Cool. That totally makes sense.
But beyond that, though, I think the biggest differentiator is the transformations because, optimization to optimization, it's relatively comparable, but then you get the transformations with like the dynamic cropping and resizing. So rather than delivering like a huge rectangular image, like you're delivering it as a square, you can actually cut those pixels out rather than just hiding them, right? So that can make a
Oh,
big difference in
yeah.
file size. You can also do things like recolor images. You can use generative fill if you want to expand that image. We have a really cool generative replace, so you can replace the background with like an AI prompt, and
Oh, sweet.
there's just like a lot of cool features that you can do with a simple prop to make working with it easier.
I love that. Maybe we can play around with a little bit of that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take the next step. We'll install our next Cloudinary. Boom, done. Awesome. So what we're gonna do after this, kind of load it up. So here's our preview again. We'll take this code and just snag it, and we'll keep things simple and just stick that directly in our page here. Probably replacing everything at this point.
Something I'm actually curious about. I'm just gonna pull it up on my own tab. I'm curious if you ask V0 to use Next Cloudinary, if they know about it and would swap the images.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Um, so you're saying like if I put in here swap, I don't know, image, or maybe it's like next image component with is it just next Cloudinary? Yeah,
Yeah.
with next Cloudinary. I don't know. Let's see.
I'm just curious what if it knows that context. It knows Cloudinary, yeah.
Wow. All right, sweet.
Well, that's interesting. There we go.
Yeah, I never would have thought about that. That's awesome.
That's good. Good tweet.
So I think what I'll end up doing is just taking this out because I always forget on the. Ooh,
It's because it doesn't have the
that's funny.
environment variable, but
Yeah,
it
so
says
it
it in
actually
the
tried to load
description.
it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so what I'll actually do is create a new component for this, and outside of the UI stuff, we'll just do that. I really hate this, and I always mean to turn it off, and I always forget how. It's oh my gosh. Anyways,
Which one? Oh, the nested folders.
yeah, I always
Yeah.
turn it off, and I always forget because I don't actually want a folder. I just want a new file. There we go. All right, so we're gonna name this photo gallery.tsx, and now I can minimize that. Cool. And so we're going to copy this code over, drop that in. And the one thing that I'm noticing, it has a use state, and I think we'll end up actually using a use state for the Cloudinary image, but we'll talk about that in a minute because we'll probably have to wrap some things. But because of that in Next, the way it's used, we have to do the, I'm going to forget, use
Use
client.
client. Yeah.
Is that right? Yep.
But because you
Cool.
have to opt that page in anyways, well, I guess if you even need use state in this component for whatever reason.
I think they're doing like a selector.
Mm.
You can pick a selected image here.
Yeah.
And it pops up. So we'll see what this does. So let's bring that back into our main page and see if we're even close at this point. Oh, I forgot to rename. I don't know why they do this. Like they do great with the file name, and then they don't change out the component. And then it's hard for the auto lookup to come in. So I wish they wouldn't make that so generic. Because if I do,
And then one thing before we try to spin it up, we'll just need to set the environment variables, or at least like update the URL.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, as Colby's kind of talking about, let's go back over the install. So here's our env local. I don't think there's one. So .env.local. And then we'll drop this in. I think for now we can use my coding cat one. If we,
That sounds
it's
good.
got some like special things wrapped in it because I'm on like a private CDN and stuff, but technically my cloud name should still get us there. So it's HMP from the old days. And then I think we're good. Let's see how far this goes. I think the images still won't work, but
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't completely crash. All right, sweet.
Progress. Oh, and it's even loading an image.
So that must have
Is it
came
referencing a
from
sample? Oh, that's cool. So sample is
interesting.
like one of the sample images. I wonder if that's generic or if that's intent. Well, it has public ID, so it must be intentional, right?
So I'm kind of curious which one it's going after, right?
Because like the Cloudinary accounts all come with like a default or like
Oh,
sample
they
images.
do. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Oh,
works.
that's pretty cool.
Cool. So actually, that got us a lot further than I thought it
Yeah,
would.
yeah.
And then I think if you click, it's trying to do something. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, it even has a little metal thing, huh?
So sweet. I mean, that right there is kind of the base of everything, if you will. So we can kind of play around with some of the Cloudinary image pieces. So one thing, like in my in Coding Cat, right? So if you go out to like Coding Cat and you look at this blog page, there's big differences between this image and like images that are kind of further down. And the reason for that, if we look at the code over here, and let me make this slightly bigger. So if we come down in here, you'll actually start to see things like this, like loading lazy. And
Hmm.
I think what are the other options? So there's like eager and lazy. And then
Hmm.
there's a couple other ones. Do you recall which ones are like,
So I think the priority attribute is typically what they have
yes,
you,
that's what I'm looking for.
which I think will auto opt you into loading lazy.
Okay.
And loading lazy, I think happens by default. So I don't think I know it looks like they added it for you, but you don't even need to add the loading lazy. It just it automatically opts into that.
So let's do a couple things here. Let's host this real quick on Vercel and see how it goes. So I'm gonna throw this up in a GitHub repo to make my life easier later on as well. So let's do GitHub repo create, and we'll do the existing one. Sure, and we'll stick this in the Coding Cat repo. Oh, I gotta think for a second. That's probably going to mess things up. Vercel's really funny about orgs, so in GitHub.
Mm.
So I will just create this one on CoderCat and we'll go from there. Okay, and then we'll just throw a little init, and hopefully this will be easy to build out then. So we can definitely do this on the command line side of things, but what I'm going to do is just go into Vercel, pop open this one as a new project. And we will put in this environment variable again. So the one thing I love about their environment variables is you can copy and paste these, and you can do
Yeah,
multiple. It's
that's super
fantastic.
handy.
I just gave that feedback for the Firebase folks on their new stuff. So
Mm.
all right, so that shouldn't take more than I don't know minute and a half ish to build out and load. And then what we can do is we can check it out on like Lighthouse and see what scores we're getting and things like that that come out. In the meantime, do we want to play around with a couple more of like the CLD image specific type of things?
Yeah,
What
totally.
what do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Should we do like a new page, do you think? And show like on click it navigates and shows a crazy image, or
Yeah,
what do
yeah.
you want? What do you think?
I mean, we could always start by cloning the page, and we can always just do it embedded on the, the gallery, just kind of playing around with it, or whatever you think.
Um, Walk me through it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, do we want to just start by creating, so we can clone the page.tsx into a new
Okay,
folder, maybe?
cool. Just call it whatever image.
Yeah.
That's probably terrible, but that's fine. We'll see how it goes.
And then, yeah, okay, you did that already. And then I guess we probably want to clone photo gallery as well, right?
Where did it
The
go?
component.
Thank you. I assume you want it a little more closer up there, but
Yeah, makes sense.
and then here instead of that one, we can do a dot.
There we go.
And it probably makes sense to like. I think we're just gonna have this as CLD image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's yank all this out. Ooh. And instead of image, maybe we do full Cloudinary image, something like that.
Sure.
I think this is where your head's
Oh,
That
so I was thinking we were just gonna add
okay.
some props to the component, but I'm
Oh, and
down.
send it
Yeah,
in. Yeah,
yeah,
we
I'm
can
down with whatever.
yeah, that works too. So let's see. Let's see where we get with all this. I don't even know. Shouldn't need any of that. So for CLD image, Colby,
Mhm.
it has to be a used client. Can you talk like through why that is,
Sure. So
at least for now?
yeah, so with server components, or with the image component rather, there's some client side capabilities that I have on the component, particularly around error loading, as well as polling, which I'll explain in a second. But error loading is just simply so that I can track the um, if there's an error and I can report that or provide a callback around that. The other thing, polling, is some of the generative capabilities and background removal. It'll return a 423 when you first request it the first time,
Oh, okay.
which is a processing. It's a code for processing. And what we need to do is we need to pull for that image, or what I'm doing is pulling for that image so that as soon as it's available or finished processing, I can refresh the UI and load that image rather than somebody having to refresh the page or constantly see a broken image. So because I have those client side capabilities, it needs to be a client component. Now, the reason why we need to add the use client from the outside as opposed to from the inside is I still haven't figured out how to create the mechanism to add the use client directive for the components. And the trouble that I was running into from like a package perspective was trying to do it in a way that wasn't going to opt in every single component and function into use client, which created some of its own problems. So um, I actually have somebody that's going to be helping me out with that and trying to figure out how I can split the packages so that I can opt them into use client automatically and, uh, you know, address that UX issue or DX issue, which has been bugging me for quite some time. So I'm really excited to finally get that fixed.
Yeah, one of the things, and I could probably bring it up in my code. We do kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a data URL. Is that the right
Mm,
term? So like I can do some of them server side with that, and then outside of that not, and it kind of just flips back in. So
yeah,
it'd be cool to have it all like server driven, and you don't have to use the use client piece.
for sure, for sure. Here's one tip for the props. What
I
you
was
can
gonna
do.
just say I just hacked all this. So there's
Yeah.
probably an easier way, but yeah, hit me.
Yeah, so you can import CLD image props and you
Okay,
can just simply use that.
that's a type, I assume.
Yep.
Yep, cool. And then just spread it. I think
You can
maybe
just replace that object and unless you want well, I guess you have the image.public ID, but usually what I do is I just then maybe you can
like that. Maybe.
um so I think it would be depending on how you're doing it, I think it would be the top level prop.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like if they want to pass anything else in, like
Mm,
additional props. Like,
mm-hmm.
does this have all the next image stuff too?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
all
okay.
top level props. Yep.
Totally fine then. We will take that out then. Awesome. And so now we can do things like image. We could actually just spread the whole thing, right?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
Cool. Maybe we change this to like, oh, getting crazier, something like that. I think.
Yep. Do you need to add a return statement in there too?
Probably that would only been like a half hour for me. That always gets me.
Yeah.
Especially switching back and forth between Svelte and Next. I don't know why
Mm,
that return. Oof.
I still haven't spent a lot of time in Svelte. I've been meaning to.
All right, cool. Yeah. So now in here, we can actually have the like URL pass through. Probably, I don't know,
So
something like that.
yeah, so typically the like kind of path of least resistance is passing in the public ID. And there's no real reason why you couldn't pass the URL. The only thing with the URL is it must have a version number in it, just because Cloudinary URLs can be very difficult to parse.
Yes.
So having that in there makes it more confident, and I require it if you're passing a URL. But public ID works as well, so you could simply pass in that sample, for instance, if you wanted to. Um, but we can also
Um,
find some there's other sample images in the account, so we can find some nicer ones.
Cool.
So the basic props that you need
Yep.
for is width, height, source, and alt.
You know what? I'll probably just start
And
this way.
I can try to find one of the sample ones, and I can just read out loud what that would be to make it easier. So how about we can do a basketball picture? How's that?
Sweet. Love it. If you want to
Okay.
send it in the private chat, I'll snag it.
Well, I can. So the source would just be CLD sample 3 with hyphens.
Oh, okay.
Hyphen sample hyphen
like that.
3, and then
Okay.
the width is 1870.
1870.
Yeah, and the height is 1250.
That's
So
weird.
so when you're adding the so when you're adding the width and height, I'd say that it doesn't always matter too much what that is, because what's more important is the responsive sizes. I mean, if you think about it, like having a good width and height with the DOM loading with the image, but if you're serving it responsively, that width and height isn't going to be the same for all the different sizes, right? Typically. So it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't really matter as much, but what's going to happen in the background is we can think is like the responsive sizes. And it looks like that's not loading, or did it save?
Is it CLD sample 3? Is that correct?
Yeah, it should be in your account, unless maybe it's a really old account, and maybe it was
My
before
account
that was added.
is fairly old. I will say
So
that.
maybe you don't have that one then.
Is that in a folder out here?
Yeah, so if you just go to the root folder.
Okay. Hang on, let me make this bigger. This is way too small for me.
Or honestly, you can just grab any.
Yeah, that's true. Let's grab the old Chuck Norris. So you'll see kind of the difference on my account here. So I have kind of and Colby, you could probably speak to this way better than I can, but this is like a CDN or not CDN. What's
CNAME.
Again, you could do better.
Yeah, so it's basically it's a CNAME, so it gives you the ability to customize the URL to your specific domain rather than using the res.cloudinary.com, which is the standard one.
And I think we can take off basically all of that and that. Maybe.
Let's see. The only thing is I saw Facebook in there, so I wonder if it'll load that way. Because it looked like it was an image pulled from Facebook, which behaves a little bit differently.
Let's see. Image
/ Facebook. Because typically image / upload. So I'm guessing you won't be able to reference the public ID that way.
Is it still Facebook like that?
So so it's not a folder, it's like the image type or the asset.
Oh, interesting.
Delivery type. Actually, I don't think I've played around with that working in there. So maybe we should pick another image.
Yep, no worries.
Or you can simply download it and re-upload it.
I was gonna say, all of my stuff is in here, so we just pick whatever. We could actually, you know what, get a little meta and pick your last one. There we go. Let's do this one.
Okay.
So again, this is the full address, and whenever you're doing this, if you're in folders like this, it's going to be like this whole thing, right?
Yep. And I think you'll need to remove that first slash.
Yep. Cool. Try again.
Jamstack handbook. Haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah. So if you notice by default, again, this is basically using the next image component tech under the hood. It just uses Cloudinary for the delivery. But you can see that by default, it's going to build a source set that has both a 1x and 2x image. So out of the box, you get like a little bit of adaptive, the images, but we can opt into.
I want to talk about this for a minute because I feel like it's super important. Let's see, how can I do this the best? Let's do that and then go to network and let's just clear this once. There we go. So we'll see here, and again, this might get a little weird because it's on the CNAME setup, and like avif is by default, so that's what we're getting out. But the part that I want to kind of address is once we start to move this,
So
am I wrong?
So by default, you're only getting that 1x and 2x, which I think is going to be based off of the device resolution.
Okay.
But what you want to do is if you go back to the CLD image and just add a sizes property, such as just 100 viewport width would be fine.
So
You're
again,
basically saying that your image is always going to be full width
so I'm
for
I'm
demonstration purposes.
just for folks, like, we wrapped this. I'm not gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it directly here so I always get it, just
Sure, if
for
you
a
want. Yeah,
default.
yeah.
And sorry, source set is that?
Sizes. It's going to be the sizes properties. So what's actually happening in the background is when you define the sizes, you're basically instructing the browser on the different sizes that you want based off of a media query. Now, because you're just going to put 100 viewport width, you're basically saying that your image is always going to be the full width of the browser. But what you could do is you can use media queries and say, if it's below 1024, give me 50 viewport width, right? And if it's above that, it'll be 100 viewport width. But for now, just putting 100 viewport width will suffice. But what will happen then is inside of the browser will take that value and compare it to your source set, which is automatically generated. And it's going to try to find the best image in that list based off of the browser size, the device resolution, and all those different factors, so that it can load the most appropriately sized image.
Sweet. So let's take a peek at this. So now we have, if you see 100 view width here, it's probably challenging to see, but there we go. So intrinsic size, is that correct? 750 by 422?
Yeah,
Or
so
render?
the intrinsic size is going to
Rendered.
be the file that was downloaded. And then the rendered is going to be what's showing up in the DOM. Because you set 100 viewport width, which for demonstration purposes is fine. That's why it loaded a 750 image, because it's assuming that image is going to be the size of the browser.
Nice. And then now, because we have 100 view width, 640 just width, 180 width, and like it keeps going from there,
Exactly.
we should be able to see.
And that list of sizes is just a default that Next.js has on the image component. It's customizable, but for most people, it's fine just using the default baked in source set list.
I want to start. Let's just do this one more time. Let's see. Oh, it's because preserve log. I'm like, what is happening? All right, there we go. All right. So now as this thing grows, you should start to see how it's every image is kind of coming and every one is larger than the last. And it's kind of incredible in my mind. Like it's basically preloading before that next step too. And so you never get like blank and then an image. So it's floating that whole time. So that's the piece that's really important if you ask me.
It's a nice smooth experience.
Yeah, and then the actual element itself, again, loading lazy, which is perfect. That's what we want. We don't want anything blocking. So I'm curious now. Let's just say added image and throw that up there. So we can first take a look at the last build that came out. So if we come out here and we snag this, we can put this into page speed. And so this is our initial creation that we had, and we're going to analyze this and kind of see what comes out. Hopefully it won't take too terribly long. And I guess while that's kind of going, we can, oh, look at that. All right, sweet. So you see, even on like mobile, this is pretty solid. I mean, for not tweaking a single thing and what's coming out of it. Granted, there's not a ton going on this page or anything, but like you have 4 images, and back in the day, like that was a heavy load to show things.
Yeah.
So you will still get this, and this was my initial hey Colby, let's jump on a call and talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually, I don't even remember the exact screen that I have or screenshot I sent you. I'll have to dig it up in our Discord real quick. But it's this kind of talk, like how important is this, and what do you see like people doing when they start to see these on their images?
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now, like for me, that's pretty solid, but like a potential savings of 23K, that starts to like jump out at me, right? Like
Yeah,
if I were a person that was like on Amazon.com or something that like it's important to have speed and loading and like on mobile and all that stuff, this would be pretty glaring to me.
for sure.
Um, what do you think? Like just adjusting that on our 100 view width, will that make an effect for these images?
So one thing to point out quick is that was using that original sample image.
Yep.
So that was a smaller image, and there was multiple images, and um, you can even see that it does have a more optimized sizes property there. So
Mhm.
it's doing a better job with that grid of images to show the appropriate one. But still, it's not going to be perfect. Like
Yeah.
between mobile and desktop, unless your browser is identically at that viewport width where those are where the images are properly showing,
Yep.
then so that's unlikely. But going back to the image that we just added, so if we were to, for example, push that out without any optimizations at all, that's going to load a pretty big image, right? That's going to load
Yep.
the raw image, not resized down to the browser, which it was a pretty big one. So that's going to be a whole lot of wasted pixels. Now, the first thing that happened is as soon as we loaded the image component, it was doing a 1x and 2x image. So you still get a little bit of optimization without doing anything in it. So that if you aren't on a Retina device, you're not going to get slammed with that huge image. Now, taking that a step further, like we did with the sizes property, I wonder if that link is not publicly accessible. Maybe.
I thought I had all mine set to open, but I
Oh,
will
okay.
take a look. I think it
Um,
is like trying to go through, but we'll see.
but then once we added the sizes prop, that
Yeah.
optimizes it even further so that we're only delivering the size image that we need based off of um, the viewport size. And again, going back to the example we just saw with the flowers, it's never going to be perfect. We also made it not perfect because we used 100 viewport width where the image isn't actually viewport width. But the point is just to kind of show a demo of how that's actually working in practice.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there's a rebuild after that. Let's try in a private window real quick. Oh,
Yeah, looks like it.
interesting. Oh, where'd it go?
Is it under security maybe?
I thought I just disabled it.
Okay.
Hmm. I'm like 90% positive this Vercel authentication, if you take and disable that, it should shut the rest off.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never played around with that.
Huh. Well, I think we can run off the normal one, I guess. Oops, now that it's updated.
So it looks like it wasn't updated though, right? Or do you need to push out those changes?
I think it should be. Maybe the, let's see. Let's clear this once. I think it is updated, right? Like now we're getting all of them.
Well, the image wasn't it the coding cat image that we were working on?
Oh yeah, so that's on a different. I just want to see
Oh,
on the on like that initial change. So
got it.
here's that first one, and then I don't know if this analyze will actually run off new. Yeah, I hope it grabs new cache. I think it will, and then we'll take a peek at the actual image.
Sounds good.
So we'll take a peek at this one. So again, this is initial. And so still kind of that same 24. So to your point,
Mm-hmm.
not that optimized anymore. All right, let's get into some more fun things. So let's say what if I wanted to I have done this a million times, but like, is there a way to say take Colby's yellow and remove that from the background? Is that a thing that's easy?
So we do have a new API that I haven't implemented in the component yet. It's called Extract. It's in beta that allows you to use a prompt to well, extract something from an image. So if I wanted to just extract me, for instance, I could use a prompt to try to do that. But I don't think we would be able to do it just from, well, I guess we could try. We can say,
We could also do just kind of like zoom to face, right?
true.
That's
That's true.
one.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
I don't ever remember these. I'm putting you on the spot. Do you
or
recall?
I think you had a separate photo of just me, didn't you?
I did. Yep. Or
Maybe
I
that'd be
do.
easier.
This one.
Yeah, right there.
Snag that. Go back to our page. If I could click right. It's all so big. There we go. All right, let's close some of this stuff down.
Cool.
There he is.
There I am.
The man, the myth, the legend.
So what do you want to do? So you want to change the background first?
I would love to. Like, let's
Yeah.
take that yellow out and swap it. And then
So
maybe
there's a
we could put
couple.
like a overlay and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways that we can approach this. First of all, the traditional way is we have a remove background feature. You would have to be opted into the add-on. Are you opted into the add-on?
I'm fairly certain.
Okay, so let's
I
try
don't
it.
know for
So
sure.
all you need to do is simply add the remove background prop with a capital B. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, maybe not.
So what happens is we're gonna get that 423. Oh, that was pretty quick. So we remove the background just like that.
That's dope.
Yeah, that was a lot quicker than I expected. So so now, because we're now dealing with the transparent image, we can start to add stuff behind it. So the first thing is we can just simply add a color. So if you use the background prop, you should be able to do just like yellow, or we're re-adding yellow. That doesn't make sense.
Let's go green.
Yeah, green. Okay. And we now have a green background on our image. Alternatively, we can add what's called an underlay. So an underlay is sticking an image behind the image. If you think about Photoshop, you have the different layers where the main image of me, that's the base layer. And then you can either put overlays on top or you can put underlays underneath. So putting the underlay would put it underneath, and maybe we can just use that sample flower image. So what you would want to do is just specify underlay, and you can just specify it as a string with default settings and just say underlay equals sample. And you'd want to get rid of the background of blue.
Oop.
Oh, well, I guess it goes on top of the background. So I guess that would be helpful if, say, you have a transparent image you're underlaying, and then the blue might show underneath that. So
yeah.
That's cool. We can see, just like with those basic settings, what it's basically doing is filling the container with that image. And of course, you can customize that if you want, but the default settings will just be filling it. Now, before we go to the overlays, I want to show you one more thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna throw my logo on.
So before we do that, there's another cool feature. You can throw the overlay or your logo if you want first. It's okay.
No, it's all good. These are the old ones. I don't know if I have a new one. Oh, here. This will. Oh, there's one right there. Okay, cool.
Oop. Now I don't remember the exact syntax for that, and I don't think it's going to be just a string.
Okay.
I don't think you can just do that. I mean, you can try if you want. But what I usually just do is I just grab it from the.
Looks like it's like an array.
Like so yeah, it's. I think you can either do an object or an array of objects with the overlays with an S.
Okay.
And that's what I typically do. So an array of objects, and I usually just simply copy and paste this from. And with React, you're going to need to have the curly braces
double.
Yeah.
The double.
Yep.
Awesome.
So what I usually just do is go to the documentation examples, and I grab an overlay from there. There's also under guides, there's overlaying images. So whatever you prefer, you can just search image overlays if you want.
Love it.
So this is a basic example. It's not a practical example, but it's just showing that you can add a picture of an earth on top of a turtle if you'd like. But
love this.
You can see that this is the syntax where you're specifying the image that you'd like to add, which is that public ID. You're setting the position where you could just default it to the center of the image, but of course, like usually you want to put an overlay in a specific spot, right? So you can set the position using the gravity, which is compass directions, and then X and Y to adjust it from there. And then the effects is basically just being able to crop and resize the image once you have it on there. So if you don't want it to take up the entire, if it's a big image, you don't want to cover the entire image, then you can resize it as you wish.
Ginormous. Wow.
Right.
This feels like it should be more like
And almost perfectly positioned as a mask.
yes. Maybe I should do that. That'd be
Right.
better. So this is way bigger than I thought it would be.
Nice.
I'm surprised it's still so blurry. That's interesting.
I'm guessing it's because the image is just bigger than what the image is being. Oh, so that's probably why. So like the image is currently taking up the container, and I'm guessing the image itself isn't that size.
Mm-hmm.
So the image itself is being expanded, making everything blurry inside. So, like if we look at the intrinsic size of the image, if we want to look at that quick.
On the whole image?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the intrinsic size of that?
Come on.
400 by 400. So, well, I guess that's the one you're hovering over. But if for instance, if you just on the image, if you add 400 by 400 instead, that should, as long as the CSS isn't stretching it. Let's see if that works. Yeah. So the image itself is small. So, in the browser, if it's stretching it out, it's just going to make it bigger.
Gotcha. Yep. That makes sense. I like this. So I've been looking, and maybe this is a pitch for the workflows. I think is what it's called. I still haven't got media flows. Thank you.
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten far enough into that, but what I'd love to get into is like and maybe I should talk to you over here for a minute. Let's do this. So when I bring on a guest like Kobe, I have a link sent out, and then there's a small form now through Google. So it's the Google Calendar, and it says, "Hey, give me your GitHub ID or whatever," and that way I can grab an image of you, or I think there's even in that form like what's an image location. And I'd love to say, okay, go take this, make a background with this title, and like stick my logo on it and all that stuff. I've done that in the past, and like more of a traditional, like I think I coded whatever a web service up and blah blah blah. Like we were doing that for a long time because Twitter images were great to use, and like it was perfect. I dumped the image in to my podcast guests, and then they would overlay it, and it was great. But I think, and I don't know if you're an expert on these yet, but the media flows could kind of take care of this now.
Yeah. And to your point, I'm not an expert on media flows yet, but I think that can certainly take care of it because essentially what media flows is it's kind of like webhooks on steroids, and you can kind of think of it like a Zapier, but for Cloudinary, where you can have listen events and watch events, probably even trigger it manually. I think I'm not totally sure about that, but once it sees that media asset, so say you upload a picture of me, you can run transformations, you can run organizational properties on it depending on what's inside the image, and basically do whatever you need to do, and then ultimately have something at the end that says what you want to do with it. So if you inbound images in a particular directory, run all the transformations, and then outbound it to a different directory or tag it or whatever, yeah, that could be an interesting way to handle that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Is there anything else that you'd often see kind of more specifically back with Next Cloudinary, and like what people are using it for, like in large brands or anything like that we should call out and show people?
So I think two of the things that are interesting are the video player and the upload widget. So there aren't a lot of video component solutions out there for Next.js, and the video player is our video player. It's built on top of Video.js and gives you like basically a really nice looking video player by just dumping in your public ID, kind of like the image component. The upload widget is our upload widget component kind of thing, and I basically just wrap it and make it easier for people to drop into their app. But if you go scroll down a little bit and click the upload an image button, you can see like you get that out of the box by just simply dropping in the component.
So
So
actually, I really love the upload widget because we use Sanity for our CMS and on
mm,
Coding Cat, and this is what you get to like load images into our CMS. It's all Cloudinary based, and then you kind of like get spit out like tons of details around images and things like that, to the point where I actually use the alts that are on images directly
mm,
from Cloudinary, so I don't have to worry about that in the code too.
yeah, nice.
The
But
video
yeah,
player we actually use as well, and I think it looks dope when we're using it and not using YouTube.
yeah, it's a nice looking player. And the nice thing about that, especially if you're thinking about like business perspective, is there's analytics built in. Like you can get them straight out of the Cloudinary dashboard,
Oh,
and you can even
really? I
tap
didn't even
into your
know that.
own. Yeah, and you can even tap into your own analytics. So if you want to add custom events, there's callbacks. So your play, your pause, your on certain times. If you want to send those to GA or wherever you want, you have that capability of tapping into that.
Yeah, I'd actually love to send them to either Firebase or Cloudinary, depending, or not Cloudinary, Sanity, depending on like
Mm,
where I'd want to track that per user. Probably
right.
in Firebase since we're using Firebase auth back in the Firebase database, but like how far into that video you've gotten and things like that for
Mm-hmm.
completion. But if you haven't used it before, this is an example. Ignore the goofy guy in the photo there. But if I click
And
play,
it's themable, which I think you did, right? It looks like you used a custom gray there.
I know I took something off because
Mm,
I was like,
yeah.
I don't like that much. I can't remember what it was now, but
And one thing
um,
you're missing out on, you could totally add your cat at the bottom of the like as a watermark or something.
I totally should do
Yeah.
that. I know, like, oh, it's yeah on pause. No, if you go away, you'll see. It's hard to see, but there's like a graying, like a something on the bottom of this. And I always try to like remove. See how that pops
Mm,
in.
yeah.
I always try to take that off. So I think I did a percentage of it, but it like really went gray when you hover over it. So
So I
some
think
CSS tricks in there, but
the reason why it's showing is if you can see, it's very faint that there's a highlight graph, and what that is basically showing. I'm pretty sure,
oh,
unless that's your shirt or something.
I think
But
I think
we
what you're
have
seeing
this.
right there is my microphone. If that's
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
what I thought it was is we have this AI highlights graph feature where if you opt into it, it's going to use AI to determine the most interesting parts of the video and then show a graph based off of that, which is
Now
pretty
that
cool.
would be cool. I should
Yeah,
probably look into that for sure.
yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
it's a super cool widget that we're using as well. So
the only other thing that I
oh,
wanted to show
yep,
you is on that image. I wanted
yeah.
to show you a different background capability.
On this one,
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
So we have this new background replacement feature, and all you need to do is if you want to remove the underlay and remove the replace background or remove background, we're
Okay,
gonna opt that into replace background, and then you can just say whatever you want.
what does that mean?
So like it's like a prompt, like an AI
So
prompt. So like space or so if you do it just like that, it's going
like
to use the
that?
context of the image. Yeah, like outer space, space, whatever you want.
Come
Um,
on, what?
so like if you do it without the prompt, it's going
Uh-huh.
to use the context of the image to try to determine what to replace the background. But you can add a prompt so that it's automatically going to, or not automatically, so it's going to allow you to direct what comes out of comes out of the replacement. So it looks like the wrong context of space, maybe like
Yeah.
outer space or galaxy or
Oops.
something like that.
It'd be cool if I put in Colby Fayok to see like what came up.
Cloudinary knows about me.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, so
Uh,
right now it's just processing, so that's why. So the first time, like
mm.
any AI thing, generative AI, it's going to take a little bit of time to. Yeah, I guess it's not hitting the mark on that one right now.
How
No
about
problem.
outer space with stars and planets?
Yeah, with AI, the more specific it's. Let's hope that this one works. But yeah, the very first
And
time
just
that
to
you
know,
use
like
these
for
processes, yeah.
yeah, for people new to Cloudinary too, this whole like it loading, if you know the prompts, you can actually do that on upload, so you don't have to like worry about later
Mm,
on trying to come up with that too. So,
yeah, there we go.
oh, that's
It's
so
a cute
cute.
one.
I like that. Very
Something else
awesome.
that I learned is also cool that if you have the prompt that you want, you can set that up as an object and you can add a seed property so
Mm,
that like you can if you don't like that variation, you can go to seed 1, 2, 3 until you find the variation you
Oh,
want.
nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Can you do like templatized where like it's the user would put a variable in? I guess you would do that on load if you're using a front end or like a use client side of things. So like if I typed in a form whatever I wanted, it would actually just do that.
Yeah.
That's a
You
neat,
can just
that's a
pass it as
fun
a
little
prop.
thing.
Yeah, just pass it as a prop
Yeah.
to the component. Yeah.
I like that. I might have to try that out.
That's the thing that's really nice about like this programmatic, and especially that it's in the delivery URL. It's not like you're hitting an API every single time.
Yeah.
So it's just so much easier to be able to use these sort of features.
Yeah, that's a ton of flexibility. That's really cool.
Yeah.
What were we talking about prior to that? I forgot.
Upload widget in the video player.
Oh yeah, I was gonna show folks if you're using a CMS. This is so cool in my mind. So let's go. This might take a minute to load. I should have clicked that before.
Yeah, and I only got a few minutes here left. Just
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Oh, I forgot we didn't book this for 90. My bad.
Oh, is it usually 90?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. It's all good. So with that said, if that ever comes up, yeah, there we go. So the cool thing, like in Insanity or some other CMSs that you're using, if you actually go to like load images, what you can do for all of these is set up that upload widget. So if you do select, you get this full, like this one's because it's already there. But if I do, I always forget how to get back one. Nope. There we go. So like you get the full selection screen like you normally would, and the one that's out here, you just have to click a box and say, "Yep, that's the new image I want," and then you're done with it. And then for Sanity, if I were to inspect this, there's a CLD image, or maybe it's just image now, cover image. That's right. And here's all the stuff that's like surrounding that image too. The actual public IDs on here and everything else. So there's the public ID.
Nice.
Makes it super easy. And I think we've talked about this before, Colby, but going from like Markdown and things like that, I was always like painstakingly just using URLs and things like that. And this has made it quite a bit easier, but like converting it from big URLs was a little more challenging.
For sure. For sure.
It's all good. Any last minute thoughts on Next Cloudinary? I feel like it's like such a big thing. I'm missing stuff, but
yeah, no, yeah, there's so many features. Like Cloudinary itself just has so many features to dig into, so it's hard to cover, even scratch the surface. But if playing around with it, if anybody has any thoughts, feedback, feature requests, hit me up or create an issue on the repo. I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible to play around with these features.
Yeah, I love it. We will take and put this repo online. It'll be under CoderCat Dev instead of CodingCat Dev, and you can play around with it all you want. And you can look at Colby's space space background as much as you'd like to.
Send me the best background replacement.
That's what I was gonna say. Like okay. tweet out what's in there because it'll change each time because it's just a prompt. So cool. Well, thanks again, Colby. I really appreciate it, and go check out Cloudinary.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.